Many misconceptions surround Buddhism, with one of the most prominent being the belief that Buddhism is inherently negative or pessimistic. A substantial number of people, upon first encountering Buddhist teachings, are quick to conclude that the philosophy only focuses on the grim aspects of existence, death, illness, sorrow, and the unavoidable pains of life. This view, while understandable at first glance, overlooks the deeper and far more optimistic truth behind the teachings of the Buddha. The first noble truth: is life truly suffering? At the heart of the confusion lies the first noble truth, known as dukkha in the Pali language. The word is often translated as suffering or stress, and indeed, the Buddha's initial teachings appear to emphasize the inevitability of pain. Life, as the Buddha described it, is filled with moments of birth, aging, illness, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, distress, and despair. These are universal experiences that touch every human life, no matter one's status, wealth, or achievements. However, to stop at this observation of life's hardships is to miss the point entirely. While it may seem that Buddhism is primarily concerned with the negatives, the true intention behind the Buddha's words is not to dwell on suffering but to offer a way out of it. Dukkha, rather than simply being about the suffering in life, speaks to a more profound truth, that life, as we know it, is imperfect and inherently unsatisfying when we cling to it in the wrong ways. The Buddha was not saying that life is devoid of happiness or joy. Quite the opposite. He recognized that joy and contentment exist, but he also acknowledged that these are fleeting, conditional experiences. The Buddha spoke about suffering to encourage us to see reality clearly, not to push us into despair. The root of suffering: craving and attachment. So why, then, do we suffer? The answer lies in the second noble truth, the origin of suffering. Here, the Buddha points to tanha, which is commonly translated as craving. This craving is more than just a desire for material possessions. It's a deep-seated attachment to things, people, and even our own identities. We crave not only what we don't have, but also what we wish to keep forever. Whether it's relationships, status, or life itself. This constant desire creates a cycle of dissatisfaction, because nothing in life is permanent. Imagine trying to hold on to a handful of sand. The harder you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. This is the nature of attachment. We hold tightly to things we believe will bring us happiness, only to find them slipping away, leaving us with frustration and pain. The end of suffering: liberation through letting go. But Buddhism doesn't stop at identifying the problem. The third noble truth brings a message of hope. Suffering can be ended. According to the Buddha, the way to end suffering is to let go of the very cause of it, craving. By releasing our attachments, we free ourselves from the cycle of dissatisfaction and open the door to a deeper, lasting peace. This isn't an abstract, philosophical idea. The Buddha provided practical guidance on how to achieve this liberation in everyday life. It's not about renouncing all pleasures or living in constant deprivation, but about changing our relationship with the things we desire. The analogy of uprooting a plant is particularly powerful here. If you want to get rid of a weed in your garden, simply cutting off the top won't do. It will just grow back. To permanently remove it, you have to dig deep and pull it out by the roots. The same is true for suffering. We must go to the root of our cravings and pull them out, rather than just addressing surface-level issues. The path to liberation, the Noble Eightfold Path. The fourth noble truth presents the solution. The Noble Eightfold Path. This path is a comprehensive guide to ethical living, mental discipline, and wisdom, designed to lead us to the cessation of suffering. It includes right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Each of these components is essential in its own way. For example, right understanding helps us see the world clearly, without the distortions of attachment. Right speech encourages us to communicate truthfully and compassionately, avoiding harm to others. Right livelihood urges us to engage in work that is ethical and supportive of well-being, rather than harmful or exploitative. The Eightfold Path is not a rigid set of rules, but rather a practical approach to life that can help us navigate the challenges and uncertainties we all face. By following this path, we can gradually transform our minds and hearts, leading to the ultimate goal of enlightenment, freedom from suffering and the realization of true happiness. Buddhism as a realistic, not pessimistic, philosophy. It's easy to understand why someone might initially think that Buddhism is a negative or pessimistic philosophy. After all, the first noble truth does focus on suffering. But this view misses the broader context. The Buddha was not trying to depress us or make us feel hopeless. On the contrary, he was offering a way to confront the realities of life with honesty and courage, and to find a path to lasting peace. Think of the Buddha as a doctor diagnosing a disease. A doctor who only told you that you were sick would indeed seem pessimistic. But if that same doctor also told you how to cure your illness and offered you a path to health, you wouldn't see them as negative. You'd see them as helpful, maybe even life-saving. In the same way, the Buddha identifies the disease of suffering, explains its causes, and provides a clear and practical way to overcome it. The importance of facing the truth. One of the most common ways we try to deal with suffering is by ignoring it or distracting ourselves from it. We fill our lives with entertainment, work, and material pleasures, thinking that these will shield us from the pain of existence. But these are temporary solutions at best. Like cutting off the top of a weed, they may give us relief for a while, but the underlying problem remains, and sooner or later, it will resurface. The Buddha's teachings encourage us to face the truth of suffering head-on, not to shy away from it. This might seem unpleasant or uncomfortable at first, but it's the only way to truly understand and ultimately overcome the challenges of life. To bring these ideas down to earth, consider the following examples from everyday life. In relationships. In romantic or familial relationships, attachment can lead to jealousy, fear of loss, or disappointment when the other person doesn't meet our expectations. By practicing mindfulness and letting go of unrealistic expectations, we can cultivate deeper, more compassionate connections with others. Work and success. In our careers, we often become attached to success, recognition, and material rewards. But this attachment can lead to stress and burnout. By focusing on the process rather than the outcome, and by aligning our work with ethical principles, we can find fulfillment without being enslaved by ambition. A personal identity. Many of us are deeply attached to our self-image and the roles we play in society. Whether it's being the smart one, the successful one, or the good parent, these identities can become burdensome. By recognizing that these labels are not who we truly are, we can free ourselves from the pressure to constantly prove our worth. The real message of Buddhism. In the end, Buddhism is not about focusing on the negative aspects of life, but about understanding the true nature of reality. By acknowledging suffering, we can begin to address its causes and work toward a more meaningful, peaceful existence. The Buddha's message is one of hope, offering us a practical path to overcome life's challenges and achieve lasting happiness. Buddhism is not pessimistic. It is deeply optimistic in the most profound sense. It doesn't promise us a life free of problems, but it does offer us the tools to deal with those problems in a way that leads to genuine freedom and peace. And that, perhaps, is the most positive message of all.